Welcome into a brand new edition of the 06010 ESPN Communications Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Feuz, and we are joined by the one and only Taylor Tannebaum. Taylor, you'll be on the call once again this weekend, the national championship game. Can you believe what has this college playoff been like for you?
First of all, thank you for having me.
Of
Second of all,
course.
a dream come true, and not just because I work at ACC Network and I host our flagship football show over there. So it's great to have an ACC team still alive. But
Totally.
just anytime you get to make a run with a team to a national championship, it's a really fun journey. And the journey's become even longer now with an expanded playoff. And, early on in my career when I worked in Alabama, did it a ton with Auburn and Alabama when they were at their height. And those were some of my greatest, work memories. And the travel's awesome. The games are crazy. And the crew you get to stick with, for the extra month and a half longer that you didn't know that you would have is really a treat.
How important is that for the chemistry when you're in, the foxhole with these people every single week and you're kind of living by the week because you don't know what the next week is going to look like until that game is final?
Yeah, it's actually funny because every week you're like, man, is this the last time? Like, it's been great working with you guys, and you'll like, every time you're with your crew, your cameramen, your producers, you're like, well, this has been so fun. You're just anticipating this could be the end. Is this the last time? And it hasn't been for us, but it's big for chemistry, right? Like the more you cover and the deeper you get with a team, um, just the more you learn and the more in depth you can be, and you can read your people without them even having to tell you what they care about because you're yapping about it all the time, in text message chains, on emails, in meetings, and then on TV. So I think our content has progressively gotten better because you're learning so much more about each other, not just professionally, but personally too, with all the travel.
What are you especially looking forward to this game? Obviously, you'll be on the call for the field pass for the ACC Huddle crew, 7:40 on the ACC Network this Monday. What are you looking forward to most for that broadcast?
I think, first of all, game wise, looking forward to the fact that you have this juggernaut, the number one team in the country, on display in the Indiana Hoosiers, but they're coming to Miami's house. And I'm excited to stand there on the sideline and look around at the fans, the IU fans who've never experienced this, and then the Miami fans at home who have waited so dang long to get to this moment, and just soak in what that's all about. Like getting to play on your home field is not something a lot of people can ever say or will say in the future. And I just think that matchup is everything you'd want in a national championship. It's not fluky. This is how it was supposed to be, whether Miami was the last team in the field or not. But for the broadcast, just being able to say that I've been on a call of a national championship, albeit in a different way. It's not the traditional call. It's not a radio call. It's our alternate broadcast. I get to stand sideline for 4 quarters of a national championship and get to actually be immersed in the actual play by play of what's going on, is something that little me would be like, man, that would be a big accomplishment, Taylor, and here you are actually doing it.
It's not just a home game for Miami either. It's technically a home game for you as well, and we'll get into that in a little later.
Yeah.
But walk us through the prep. You mentioned what it's like and the information that you're able to share with the producers and your other talent that you work with is going to be doing this game. Walk us through, what does that look like for you in advance of this big championship game?
So a lot of the prep, as they would say, the hay is in the barn for Miami because you kind of know everything about them. Now, a bulk of my prep is on Indiana because working with ACC Network, you're really in tune with all of those teams. Indiana's a team I haven't covered as much this season. So now it's a lot of reading and listening and learning deeper about Indiana and their tendencies and how Miami can match up with that, listening to a lot of podcasts and having a lot of guests on our weekday ACC PM show and just listening to their takes on what we're potentially going to see X's and O's wise. And then it's having meetings with my guys and what sticks out to them and where they can see Miami potentially take advantage of Indiana because no one's been able to do it. And not a lot of people are giving Miami hope. So it's trying to find those little pockets of potential for the Hurricanes. So really this week is spent doing a lot of TV, but also a lot of listening and reading and learning in my downtime about the opponent. And that's pretty much what it's been all season. But for these alternate casts, it's one of those things that you have a plan set for the first probably 5 minutes to get you ready, to get you set, to bring the teams out of the tunnel. And then it's kind of like everything you prep for goes out the window and you're following the game action. And I think that's kind of the most fun part. Is TV's so traditional and prepared. You go into things with a rundown, and this one's kind of like fly by the seat of your pants, and just making sure everything is up here by the time you get into the game is the most important part.
Yeah, what is that like? You'll go from hosting the flagship studio show and then boom, you're on the field with no script and no rundown and you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. What was that like when you did it for the first time to now? How have you evolved in that role?
So this will be our fourth alternate field pass broadcast with the ACC Network on the Huddle. And the first one we did actually was for Miami, Florida State, because it was a big top 25 showdown. And for that one, we kind of were just like, well, we're doing it, figure it out. Like there was really no plan or big, massive meeting ahead of time, because we did our ACC Huddle pregame show. And then you go right into that. And it was like, all right, we see what we liked. And we liked that it was just a free flowing conversation, but maybe we need a little bit more structure coming in and out of breaks, or, let's set the stage a little more structured at the top, like you would see in a traditional broadcast with a quote unquote open, as they would call it, and setting the stage for both of the teams you're about to see. So we tried that the next time. We really liked that. So now we've implemented that a little bit more, where the first 5 minutes is really, really scripted. And then, in and out of breaks, we have more information to give you and graphics and packages we've put together to try to make it more produced, right? But then the in-between is kind of just go with whatever you're seeing and follow along. So going from the pregame broadcast, you have a nice chunk in between. We try to get a little half hour in between. We get some relief from another crew that comes in and takes over. And then we get down there and mic'd up and all that. It's sort of just talking to my guys and reaffirming what I thought that we talked about in the meeting, and making sure they have the runway and the resources to be able to talk about what they want to talk about. Really, the hardest part is getting mic'd up and making sure your audio is working when there's 100,000 people in a stadium. That's probably the hardest part about doing this thing.
Yeah, you're from the Fort Lauderdale area. You're an FSU alum. Are you excited about going back home?
I'm really excited. Anytime I get to go home means I get a little taste of family too. I'll get to see my new nephew and my parents, and I'll look up into the stands, and a lot of my family and friends are Miami fans. Like many of us who are going probably have been hit up 100 times for tickets, and no, we don't have any tickets. But it's going to be pretty special. That's the stadium. I grew up going to Dolphins games. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and so many times we've been there this season with Miami. And I will say, as a Florida State alum, a lot of people ask this, like, is it hard for you to be covering Miami making a national championship run? And it's not. Like, when you get into this business, I'll always have my Florida State fandom, and that certainly comes first when they play each other. I think people probably know where I lean, and I'm not afraid to say that. But when you cover a team as deeply as you do, and like we've done with Miami, you root for the team, right? And you root for the players. And for me now, it's about the ACC and then them as a whole coming out with what would be a massive win in a national championship game. And if that has to be Miami, then that's a really cool thing. And I'm happy for the people that I know that care so much about this program.
You mentioned you covering the Alabama run when you were in local TV. How did that environment teach you and prepare you for this role at ESPN now?
A lot. I was thrown into the fire. When I graduated college, 21, 22 years old, I went to a small market, Dothan, Alabama. And you think you're just covering like small market Alabama. It's market 179 and, high school sports and all that good stuff. And no. You're covering Alabama and Auburn at the highest level. Like you would operate as a top tier market, right? And the stations would invest in traveling because that's all people care about in the South, right? So I traveled to everything, and I'm 22, 23 years old doing live shots next to like the Wendy Nixes of the world. And in these meetings and in these press conference rooms with people who are larger than life, and the Reese Davises of the world. Like, I'm looking at their set thinking, man, I hope that can be me one day. And I cannot believe that they're able to do this job. And now here I am doing a job that's very similar. So it forced you to grow up. It forced you to level up your game. And I learned how to travel and follow a team and the process that goes along with a very long journey like this. So those are the benefits of doing that in the past. Like, I was 22 years old standing next to the people I wanted to be. And I was in the rooms that I always dreamed of being in with those people and shaking a lot of hands that really helped pay off long term in getting the job I have now. So that's why I always tell young people in this business, like, what you're doing in your small markets ultimately pays off. Like, that's not just a stepping stone. It can be everything in your future too.
Now, you said the market 179. A lot of people don't realize the people in the business understand, when you graduate college and you want to get to, a top 50 market, but you got to start out at the lower market. Walk us through what that might be for the fans that might not truly understand what market you want to get in right out of college. And then like in 5 years, I want to get up to, top 100. And then maybe after you want to get top 50, walk us through that.
So the quick synopsis of that is, I think there's about 210 markets, unless that has changed since I've left local television. 210 is the smallest. It's like Bismarck, North Dakota or something. It's so small. And then you have your top markets, which are like New York, Chicago, LA, right? Your ultimate goal is to get to one of those or to network television. So I started out of 210, market 179 in Dothan, Alabama. Then, you hope to level up and maybe jump 100 markets, which I did. I went to Huntsville, Alabama to cover even more of that stuff at market 79 at the time, spent a couple years there. And then I went to market top 30. It might be 25 now in Indianapolis. And I stayed there for 4 years. And then once I hit market 25, I was like, let me try my hand at network. And that's how I ended up at ACC Network. So every couple of years, you try to make it bigger, and you at least hope the departments get bigger and the resources get better and the sports get more important as you go up. And that's really what I had in my journey. I went from smaller town to big city in Indianapolis, covering more pro sports and on a much larger scale.
That's incredible. And before we get into the Fast Five round, I did read that you were doing the morning announcements in fifth grade, and then that was the moment that clicked for you that you wanted to be on air and be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So walk me through the fifth grade Taylor. What was that realization like for you, and how did you at that point say, okay, I'm going to do this for my career now?
So in fifth grade, I've told this story before. You have a chance in elementary school to pick safety patrol or morning announcements, and it's very cool to be safety patrol. Like, you get your badge. It's that nice orange little buckle you get to wear across your chest. And I, for whatever reason, decided I wanted to do morning announcements. And maybe it's because I like to talk, and maybe it's because, I don't know, I wanted to be different. But I chose it and I loved it. And I still remember it was, CPE Studios, and the tagline is like, where good things are happening at Central Park. Have a great day. Like, I fully remember it. And from that point on in middle school, I went and shadowed for a career day in Miami at one of the local stations. I have a cousin that's a producer down there. So I got that opportunity. And then, from then on, it was kind of like I always knew what I wanted to do. I loved sports. But I thought, hey, let's make it TV. That's the best. I'm not going to play it. I sure as heck wasn't good enough to play sports like that to that level. So I was like, I can talk about it. So that was really the start of it. And actually, funny enough, I still have like an awesome picture of me back in the day doing TV. I'm going to find it for you. In elementary school. And I look back on it now, I'm like, man, that's pretty crazy stuff that back in that time, I didn't know that this is what my future would have held. But that's little me behind a camera in fifth grade, looking real thrilled, really happy incredible to be there. And then there's college, right? Manifesting, and then that's today.
Wow.
So
incredible.
It all comes full circle.
Full circle. Now you'll be on the field for the national championship game this Monday. Well, Taylor, this is my favorite part of any interview I do. It's the Feuz Fast Five. It's 5 quick questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, number one, favorite venue you've ever worked at?
That's easy. That is Indianapolis Motor Speedway for
Mm,
an Indy 500.
yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, One broadcast or sporting event you wish you could relive as a fan.
I would say the Iron Bowl in 2013. It was the kick six, and I was doing it as a member of the media, like I said, 22 out of college, and it was chaos. But as a fan, I'm sure that night when you didn't have to report on it was very fun.
Yeah, that's definitely best advice you've ever received in the industry.
Run your own race.
Mm,
Don't compare yourself to other people's journeys because it'll eat you alive if you're watching other people do things that you dreamed of. You'll eventually get there, and your path is your path for a reason.
totally agree with that. If you looked in your phone contacts and you had to choose one person to host a podcast with, who would you choose and why?
That's a great question. I'm going to go with someone we're friends with, and she works at ESPN, and her name is Steph Janetta. And I know nobody probably knows who she is. She's behind the scenes and she makes a lot of things go, but she's really the funniest person that I know. And I think if I had to have a sports podcast with someone who's in sports, but like isn't necessarily on the study sports side of things, I think she would be a blast to host a podcast with. I know that seems crazy. It's nobody famous. But I think actually a lot of people would tune in and it would become famous.
It would. I would listen to every episode. I think Steph, I would agree with you. Steph is one of the
Yes.
funniest people I know, if not the funniest. And she gets it from her parents too. And the whole family is just great. And then the last one for you, Taylor, a dream event you haven't covered yet that you would love to get to the chance to do.
I'm going to go international on you because
Okay.
why not? I'm not necessarily a tennis player, but I'd love to go to Wimbledon or
Mm,
like F1, Monaco, something like that,
yeah.
just to get the experience of an overseas big, massive production like that. And you get to dress the part and enjoy. And I think that's something that I would like to attend in my not so distant future.
I I agree with that. Wimbledon is on my bucket list as well. So,
Yeah.
well, this has been so much fun, Taylor. Thanks so much for the time today. This is a busy stretch for you, but have a great broadcast this Monday and enjoy it and safe travels down to Florida.
Thank you so much.